Good morning, everyone. The DUI guy is back. Excuse me. We are here on the East Coast. Let me fix my tie a little bit. It is 8:30 in the morning Eastern Time, and I got a couple ideas from you guys actually yesterday or the day before. I think it was yesterday. And I want to address them because I think that these are valuable questions that you guys are asking, and I really want to address them. One of them, the one posted by Craig, is kind of like more for attorneys, I suppose, than it is for the public, unless you are what's called a pro se litigant. Pro se simply means you represent yourself. You don't have a lawyer. You're being your own lawyer. And the other one by Samuel Bowden that I'll be addressing is a little bit more concrete for the public, I suppose. How to find a Bulldog trial lawyer. I guess like myself is maybe what he's referring to, but we'll get to that in turn. But first, I'd like to make an announcement. Other than this channel doing really, really well, ever since I started practicing law, actually, I been dreaming of joining this organization when I found out about it. Only a select few lawyers can get into it. It's kind of like, thank you, HP 111. It's like the $1 million verdict and the multi-million dollar verdict organizations that the only way a lawyer can join one of those is to actually get a verdict from a jury. Now, I don't have either of those yet. I'm sure I'll be doing more civil cases in the future, and I'll maybe someday end up, but that's the only way to get in. Same with this organization called Trial Masters. Now, you may have noticed my thing at the top. I don't know if you can see it from here, but if you go on my channel, I've added their logo. I am now officially a member of Trial Masters. The only way to get in is to have trials, to try cases. And this is going to bleed into the second question, which I may even do first, but we'll see. Essentially, the only way to get in is if you're under 10 years of practice and under 40 years of age, either or. So if you're over 40 or over 10 years of practice, you have to have 25 trials. You do not qualify under the lower threshold. I qualified under the lower threshold of 15 trials. I actually calculated I have 16, 4 bench, 12 jury under my belt already. And let's talk about actually the question by Samuel Bowden. So Samuel Bowden wrote really cool content. Thank you, Samuel. I have never been in trouble with the law, but if ever I want a lawyer like you, you should make a video, here it is, on how to find a Bulldog trial lawyer. All right, so how do you find this magical cat? Very easy, Google. Go to Google and search for, there's several things you need to be looking for when you're looking for a legit trial attorney. Now, what I've done in the past is I posted victories. I post as many victories as I can remember on my website. I'm actually building a new website, www.larryformanlaw.com. That's Larry, F as in Frank, O-R, M as in Mary, A, N as in Nancy, LAW.com. It is currently live, my old one, but my new one should be going live maybe before the end of the month. I'll let you guys know when that is. But it's all pretty and modified, and I hired a company because I built my own website back in the day. So, but you want to see someone who has results, and how. What better way to show the public you have results than to just simply post your own victories? So that's what I did. I posted my own victories ever since I started practicing, and they accumulate. People see it. And then I started posting some of my victories back in maybe 2015, 16, 17, 18. I was not streaming. I haven't streamed since I started streaming on February 1st. That was the first time I think I ever went live on YouTube this year. So up until then, I was just posting a few victories here and there. I didn't have much. You can obviously tell I have some stuff from like 3 years ago and whatnot. But people it got some response. People would be like, hey, I checked out your YouTube videos. I kind of like you. I want you to be my lawyer, right? So they see me in action. They see the lawyer in action. They're like, I'm interested in seeing this lawyer in my case, okay? So Samuel, what else can you do if, let's say, a lawyer doesn't have that? Simply, when you start calling around, look for reviews, by the way. Very, 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 very important. I'm amazed at how many people, especially in Kentucky, don't even read reviews. They just, Bobby Joe told me that I should hire this guy or this girl to represent me, and they come in and, do a shit job, and you're like, what is going on? Like, why? Because you haven't read the reviews. They have like one review on Google, and maybe it's bad, So reviews are everything. Excuse me. If they don't have that either, because we do have some old cats here in Kentucky, and I'm sure in other states, that maybe are beyond worth their salt, but you won't even realize so the only way to get to them is to call them. If they don't have anything on their website, if they don't have a YouTube channel, if they don't have reviews, if they really are a dinosaur, but they may be antiquated, but they're one of the best, but you won't even know. You're like, who is this guy? He could be shite, he could be good. Or this woman, maybe she doesn't have anything posted, but she's been around for like 20 years practicing law, and she's really, really good. By the way, just because somebody posts, I've been practicing for 35 years, does not mean that they're good. Okay, just remember that, because somebody could be practicing for 40 years and never having tried a case. In the lawyer community, we all know who they are, but you're not in the lawyer community. You are outside of it, so you need guidance. So call them up, call them and ask them directly, hey, how many trials have you had? Don't ever ask. I think it's really bad when people suggest you should ask how many trials a lawyer has won, okay? Now, I have a decent track record, but I have actually a really good track record. But if you don't, that doesn't mean you're a poor lawyer. It means you maybe still be learning. And also, don't hold it against young lawyers. Like, young lawyers who have maybe been in practice 1 or 2 years are not going to have 10 trials. That's not possible. It took me 5 years, and I had to really, 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 really push on the 12 jury trials and my 4 bench. And don't forget how many, I could have had maybe 30 trials by now if every single one of my trials went. Prosecutors settle. I probably had more than that. Looking back, I have, 40, 50. I lost track at this point of how many cases that are set for trial and settle the morning of or the day before or what have you. So don't hold against a defense attorney how many trials they have actually been victorious in. And also, victory is a loaded term. Not guilty is an obvious victory, but what if they vote guilty, but you still get better than the offer? I mean, how many times, I don't try these cases, but how many times have we heard murder trial going on, and then you have somebody, they don't walk them, meaning not guilty, but instead of 20 years to life or death penalty, they get manslaughter, 5 years. They're going to get paroled in 4.5. So it's maybe even 3+ and for good behavior. I mean, it's just, it all varies. The concept of victory in the legal sense is very, very loaded. So be careful how you ask that. And some lawyers don't even know how to answer that. I do, because I've been, training and practicing in that sense, because it's part of marketing. It's part of marketing. But essentially, you want to ask the lawyer, have you tried cases? Are you even capable of trying cases? Because most lawyers are not. So if you want a true bulldog, okay, not somebody who's going to hold your hand and walk you down the aisle as you plead guilty over to the judge's bench, you want somebody who knows how to try cases, period. That's literally your priority number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 for a bulldog. Then you want to see their personality. Does their personality check in with yours, because if you guys are not going to get along, chances are, especially if you're a down to earth kind of person, what do you think they're going to be like with the jury? They're going to be the same way, right? I mean, not always. Again, there's a caveat. I've met and heard, more heard of than met, really, to be honest, of lawyers who just are a completely different person when they're in front of a crowd, when they're in front of a jury, when they're in front of somebody who's going to be deciding their client's fate. They're maybe the biggest asshole douche in the world, but then when they're being watched, presenting evidence for, against, whatever, they're a completely different person. They're the nicest person in the world. Now, I don't know how anybody can do that. I think we all have a little bit of elements of weirdness in every lawyer I've ever met, including myself. I mean, for God's sake, I'm talking to a computer screen, right? To people who don't even, I've never seen before, which I think is kind of cool in this day and age. But hey, I'm liking it. So let me catch up on some questions here. David S. says, does trial clerking count in years of experience? Trial clerking, I mean, I don't know. I can't answer that. Maybe. I would say you want the lawyer to have like actual physical, not second chairing, maybe running the show. Second chairing does help. I mean, at least they're out there. It shows that they're willing to do it, because most lawyers are not even willing to do that. Hate running a comment and have it disappear because of fat fingers. Congrats on 1K subs. Thank you, Stuart Tracy. GM. Thank you, Cabby. HP111, what's your IQ? I know it's above 0. I don't know exactly what it is. The Attorney General in Pennsylvania has never tried a case in front of a jury. His opponent who ran against him never tried a case in front of a jury. They may have never appeared before a judge. Very possible, Whitey. How do you see through cops and their lies? It's an instinct, HP111. Once you get so many years, if you're dedicated and you're good and you want to know stuff, you feel it, and you figure out who's telling the truth and who's lying, and then you put it to the test. I mean, that's what Clarence Darrow did back in the teens and 20s and 30s of the 20th century, right? There were no lie detectors, there were no cameras. He just tried cases. He put them to the test. Oh, you think you can? Okay, well, let's see what happens, right? And he was the master. I mean, if you ever want to read a closing argument, I mean, his closing argument in Leopold and Loeb, he wasn't going for victory. He knew they were going to get convicted. The question was, do they get the death penalty or do they get life in prison? And one of them actually died in prison. The other one got out later. But I mean, just a brilliant mind. Stephen Kirk asked, can you learn how to edit the videos better? Maybe talk some over them. I will. Again, this is just new stuff for me too. So I'm like, pumping out as much as I can. But eventually, maybe by summertime or something, I'll have like my own personal videographer that's just going to be working, maybe like part-time for me, working like 4 hours a day, just doing my stuff. Stuart Tracy says, is another subject matter you might try commenting on First Amendment auditors. Yesterday, Furry Potato was shot by a security guard standing on the sidewalk in Beverly Hills. I didn't hear about that. Rainbow 6'3" Enlightened. I asked the other day for the elders interested in why people in the municipal court manner like a DWI have a right to a jury. I live in New Jersey, and I know that you don't have a jury before a judge. I know you would only have a jury before a judge. You mean like a case before a judge? Some states are like that. Unfortunately, the federal standard is the same thing, I believe. At least when I go to Fort Knox, that's what I've been told. I haven't tried a case there yet. But some states do not have juries for offenses that carry sentences, let's say, below 6 months. I think New Jersey, Virginia, and the feds, I can think off the top of my head immediately. They do not have juries for DUI first. Now, second, third, fourth, yes. First, no. Like we get juries for a speeding ticket. Actually, shout out to one of my buddies, Justin Brown. great criminal lawyer. He tries like murders and burglaries and all that crazy crap that I would never touch. At least now, I'm not interested in those types of cases personally. A brilliant guy. He tried a speeding ticket to a jury, and he took like a day and a half. I was like, you're amazing. Thank you so much for doing this, sticking up for the little guy. I asked him, I was like, why did you guys try it? Why did they gave the offer was the maximum fine, the maximum penalty on the speeding ticket? And he's like, I have nothing to lose. Why would I? And he got something, it's borderline hung jury, and the judge still accepted it as a conviction. So they're appealing it. I love this guy. Like he's awesome. Citizen Dank, less time at the shooting range, more time at the law library. Probably a good idea, especially if you're trying to become good. So from your side, are we moving towards a police state, or is it just conspiracy nonsense, John? Oh, I have no idea. I mean, it seems like more people are starting to wake up and kind of understand what's going on. But the government is just going to do as government does. We just got to keep it in check. It's a checks and balances, citizens versus the government. And it's not a fight, thank God, yet. I mean, it can become one, as we all know. I mean, look at France at the end of the 18th century. That was the epitome. Revolution, executed, everybody. And then Russia, beginning of the 20th century, same thing. I mean, it happens from time to time. I don't think we'll ever get to that point. Modern day society just has too many checks and balances. We got the internet, we got this. So all these, I don't listen to conspiracy theories. Again, it's a waste of my time. I have better things to do with my time. Why don't they show the dash cam evidence? Asked HP 111. Sometimes it exists, sometimes it doesn't. Daniel Bath, Judge Shimiel 1 month ago was the state's attorney general, trained at the police academy, long relationship with chief of police. Now he refuses to recuse himself in my case. How best to remove the sociopath? I don't know. You're going to have to, if they're not willing to recuse themselves as the judge, and despite the fact that they have bias, you're going to have to lose an appeal. That's the best I can tell you. I mean, it happens periodically. It's really unfortunate. Thank you, Alan. Hello from Kentucky. Cameras scare cops. That is true. HP 111. The First Amendment movement on YouTube, Michael. I'm not too familiar with it. I think I know what you're referring to. The freedom of speech. I mean, what are the limitations? Like we've all probably have heard by now that one crazy girl trying to convince her boyfriend to kill himself. I mean, come on. Like how, that is just disturbing, and is that a First Amendment protected speech? I mean, there's no way they could have won on that. Just some common sense, There's not a judge in the universe that wants to write that judicial opinion stating that, yeah, it's protected speech. You can tell somebody to just basically off themselves, and we're not gonna do anything to you. You're protected. Like, come on, get real. Judges are humans too. Don't forget, they're not robots like writing decisions based on a calculus of a Bill of Rights calculation plus human rights, blah, blah, blah. It's a human sitting behind that pen. Rainbow 6-3 Enlightened. What are your feelings on a client who's administered SFSTs, which was designated for alcohol, but after was arrested for drugs, no indication for alcohol? It happens all the time. I mean, what are my feelings? Get a good lawyer. That's about it. I don't know what First Amendment auditors are, HP 111. Let's move off this topic. That's not my specialty. I don't know much about it at all. It'd just be wasting everyone's time. Jason, you should see the guys who go to the police station wearing armor. Yes, I've seen those. What do they expect? All right, let's move on to the second question that I promised you guys. How to deal with cop, prosecutor, and judge when they're all on the same team. Okay, this is more for the lawyers out there. I think are going to be more interested in this. So I'm going to skip through some of this text. It should be at the bottom. I already posted it. Can you talk about the challenges of feeling like the judge, prosecutor, and law enforcement officer are all on the same team? How often does a prosecutor get favorable objection rulings? What really happens when you have to go up to the bench and argue? Is there a record of that? Seems like they usually turn it off. how heated can the conversation get? This is basically stuff that I've always been interested in. So let's tackle these one at a time, really. The challenges. My job is extremely challenging. It is also extremely fun and extremely rewarding, especially when you're up against a complete wall and somehow you end up climbing over it. Most trials are not won with a nuclear bomb. Okay, I have had a couple like that, but most trials you win with 1,000 paper cuts. Okay, what do? You chip away at their case. You explain everything around everything that they did. I mean, case in point, the O.J. Simpson trial. Okay, you guys said you did this. Now let's see what you did not do. They did it for 9 months. Okay, so I completely understand why the jury may have been frustrated and getting ready to jump out the window by the end of it. If you guys have seen that series that they came out with a few months ago, it was really, really cool. I highly recommend it. But anyway, that's what we do. We fill in the holes. We're not there to just make up reasonable doubt. We're here to show that the facts are not, the officer did not testify to all of the facts. They only testified to the facts that are convenient for them and necessary for them for a conviction. Okay. And juries understand that. Juries get that. I mean, if all we had, I talked to a cop recently, like super cool guy. They're rare, but they exist. This guy from Davis County, trooper. He said, I can't even imagine. This his words, not mine. He said, I can't even imagine if we were to have a hearing and all you get to hear is one side. I mean, that would be a disaster. That would be a monarchy over the people. Like one side says you did this and it's over. Like there would be completely no control. Cross-examination is that check and balance. That is in the Constitution. You are permitted to cross-examine witnesses. So the challenges when they're all on the same team are just, they're challenging, but they're rewarding when you're successful. And it depends on which jurisdiction I'm in. For instance, the Bell County and the Campbell County, I can tell you right now off the top of my head, were very contested jurisdictions. They're not my hometown. And the judges, I don't need to tell you this, did not appear very fair. They appeared very biased from the get-go. And I am used to it. I simply ignore it. I have a game plan, and I stick to my plan. That's all I do. You got to understand, at the end of the day, and I always like to refer to this as a game. And it really is a game. It's just very complicated with very serious consequences type of game. So when you play by the rules, even if the deck is always going to be stacked against you, even in my hometown, we're going to have judges. We're going to be maybe a little bit more leaning one way or the other. And it's normal. It's normal human behavior. You're never going to have a completely unbiased judge this day and age. I mean, 50 years ago, maybe 50 years from now, who knows? But right now we're in an area where everybody brings their own personal feelings, biases into the equation. And it's sometimes it shows so vibrantly you cannot ignore. Like even you as the lawyer kind of sits there and goes, why is this judge like this? And you're dealing with two prosecutors, essentially. The only difference is one is wearing a robe. And I'm used to it. It's unfortunately, it's normal. So you have to know who your opposition is. You have to know your facts. You have to know your case backwards and forwards. There cannot be any empty gap. That's why trial preparation is always the most annoying part. The performance, as I like to call it, the actual trial itself, that's easy at the end of the day because, well, for me, again, I consider myself to be a performer. I really am. It's what I was born to do, I feel, because it comes very naturally to me. There's some people who are the opposite. They want to sit at a desk and write and write and write and write. Well, for me, I like to be front and center. I like to persuade, argue, convince, get verdicts, talk to people. I'm a people person. It's just my personality. That's all it is. And that's my niche. So that's why I do what I do in that sense. But how often does a prosecutor get favorable objection rulings? I tried a case in Boyle County. I've actually I don't think I requested it yet. I called them, but I need to mail them a check. So thanks for reminding me, actually. But that case I lost, and I think I could have won if I don't know. We'll talk about it when the time comes. But the judge there was incredible, amazing. The prosecutor was brand new. He was practicing maybe like a year and a half, not even 2. And I've been practicing about 5 still at this point, maybe 4.5. And the judge was very fair. I'm again, it comes naturally to me. So every time I objected, and I felt I was right. I never object emptily unless I feel that it's going to benefit me. If there is a statement made and I'm like, that's objectionable, but am I going to gain anything? You always have to make that calculus. And a lot of lawyers, the prosecutor from Grayson County, the trial that I had, he had 0 calculus. He just object. You can't do that. By the time he was done with his 15th or 20th objection, the jury hated his guts. What are you hiding? Why are you doing this? Why are you like this? He didn't understand. There was no comprehension there. Not my problem. I use it to my advantage. I started maybe accidentally, subconsciously. I was not doing it on purpose, slipping in some questions that were objectionable. It was just inevitable for him to fall, at least in that sense. So objections have to be calculated. You cannot simply object blindly. So when I objected in Boyle County trial, which you'll probably see eventually, maybe by the end of the month or maybe next month, the judge, out of like maybe 15 objections throughout the entire trial, 13 were mine, 2 were his, give or take. He pretty much granted about 95% of my objections because I was right. He was brand new. He was making a lot of mistakes, asking very inappropriate questions, leading the witness, arguing with my witness. I mean, a lot of just silly stuff. And I wasn't holding anything against him at all. I mean, he's new. Why would I hold anything against him? I knew he was not doing it intentionally. If I was doing it intentionally, it'd be a whole lot worse. And then I can, move him to be held in contempt if he does it again, or move for sanctions, etc. But at the end of the day, when he was asking these questions, I was just playing by the rules. That's all it is. Object. And then the judge decided my favor. A couple times he objected during my testimony. I responded. The judge was like, nope, overruled. So again, he was completely on my side. I had just almost free reign in that courtroom because he saw me as a professional. And and it was the first time, by the way, in my entire life, I had a judge basically grant my instructions over the prosecutions because I had the experience and the judge trusted me because he knew me. So that was really, really cool. What really happens when you have to go up to the bench and argue, Craig? What do you mean what really happens? I think most of it is still recorded. No, all of it is still recorded to protect the record. We argue other stuff that it has to be done outside the earshot of the jury. Maybe it's an admission question, admission of evidence. Maybe it's some testimony question. Could be anything. All of that's recorded. Is there a record of that? I just answered that. Seems like that is usually off the record. That's not true. How heated can the conversation get? Pretty heated, depending on the issue, especially if I feel that I'm right or the prosecutor feels that he or she is right. So yeah, I mean, it can get pretty intense. I'm not going to lie. It usually doesn't because we're both kind of cordial. But no, don't be mistaken. Trial is war, okay? There is no nice spin on it. You cannot be, I'll just forgive him that one. That's okay. I'll get him on the next one because the other opposition is not thinking that way. It is absolute, brutal, ruthless, without question, war, okay? And when you go into battle, because that's what you do. If you guys ever read Sun Tzu's The Art of War, by the way, I read that book, where actually I listen to it because I drive. I don't have time to sit down and read. I listen to that book about once every 2-3 months because it can be applied to anything. Personal relationships, romantic relationships, personal friendships, work, trials, anything at all. I mean, it's just so brilliant. And that's what it is. It's just it's a war zone. And it should be treated as such and respected as such. And if you don't, you're only fooling yourself and you're not representing your client to the best of your ability. Again, that's my own personal opinion. Let's see, let's catch up on some questions here. Rainbow 36 Enlightened, are you saying the judges are not neutrally detached and they are on the same team as the prosecutor? No, that's not what I'm saying. Universally, sometimes they are, and it feels like it, but again, you cannot prove it. You'll never be able to show. It's just, it usually is going to be smaller jurisdictions. You're going to run into that, but it's really not that much of a problem. If you're a professional, you're just going to be able to step through that because you know what you're doing and you're just going to keep on doing it. Again, remember, the key word here is forget about the judge, forget about the prosecutor, forget about the cop. At the end of the day, who cares who they are or what they say? The only thing that matters is you, the defense lawyer, in the courtroom, arguing your case and proving your case, because sometimes you cannot just simply not do anything. You have to prove your case to a jury. Most juries want to hear something. Now, some cases can be won without it, but we're not talking about that here. Your job is to be the master of the courtroom. And if you can accomplish that, you will start winning cases. 3-1 would get most lawyers contempt of court. HP 111 says 3-1 would get most lawyers contempt. I'm not really sure what that means, but maybe you're referring to when, if a lawyer continues down the same path after the judge said you cannot do this and the prosecutor objects a couple of times, you can move for sanctions and you can move for contempt. In that Grayson County trial, the prosecutor actually moved for sanctions against me and the judge just said, I'll take it under consideration, and now he's retired. So that's never going to come to fruition, but he was completely out of line and the judge knew that. He just he couldn't just ignore the motion. He had to take it in, but he had nothing. The prosecutor really had nothing. Just because I'm doing something you've never seen before does not mean it's against the law, okay? That just means you have not maybe tried as many cases as I have, and you don't know what you're doing as well as I do. So prosecutors like to spring that on you. Oh my God, they love to spring it on you. When I do something, I like innovation. I like doing new things. I like creating theories. I like testing things out and seeing what works. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. You polish over the years. That's what we do as human beings. We get better at what we do on a daily basis. So that's one of the things that I've been doing. And he just kept objecting on some things where I'm like, just let him speak. Like, why are you trying to break up? I asked him a question. Yes, it sounded like an answer. Not all questions on cross-examination have a question mark on the end of them and are going to have an inflection of, huh? Okay. Cross-examination is testimony by the defense attorney through the cop. That's what it is. That's what true cross-examination is and should be. So most of my quote-unquote questions for the officer are statements that he needs to confirm or deny that deal with the case. So just because I'm asking questions that you don't like, you can't simply object, okay? As you've already seen in some of them. Snap Malloy says, in reference to the trooper you spoke with, are not grand juries completely one-sided? Yes, grand juries, you can indict a ham sandwich. You've all may have heard that term. Grand juries are defense attorneys are not allowed in. If your client testifies, you cannot be present. I mean, grand juries are lopsided. We do not talk about grand juries. There's no cross-examination there. You're right. It is an art, says Johnny USA. You may ask an objectionable question just to get an idea in jury's mind. That's a tactic as well. John Hale, have you appealed a case yet and did you prevail? I have one. It's a civil case pending on appeal. I don't like appeals court. Appeals court is loser court, period. Case in point. If you're in a court of appeals, that means you lost and you need to. I don't like to lose. So I do everything in my power to win on the levels below. But there will come a time when I'll have an appealable issue. And if I lose, then, of course, preserve the record and appeal it. Absolutely. Hope you researched Richard Fine, attorney held in contempt almost 2 years. at 7 years old for exposing city county corruption. Stuart Tracy says, that's sad. That's really sad. But stuff happens, I guess. All right, we're already at the 35-minute mark. I see. I want to wrap this up. Does your state recognize the good faith exemption? And if so, do you feel that is beneficial? The good faith exemption with regards to what? Rainbow 6-3 Enlightened. I'm not 100% sure, but if you're simply referring to the officers, he was in good faith. It depends. It depends on the scenario. I mean, if it's a search, I usually don't run into those, but they were searching the vehicle in good faith or whatnot, then you're always going to lose on that, especially if the officer testifies to that effect. But there's other ways around it. Again, every case is different. You're going to win on different grounds. So anyway, I want to wrap this up. I want to thank you all again for participating. Thank you for your questions. Keep your questions coming. I absolutely love what this is starting to become. I mean, I by my count, I think the most people I've had at one time today was 49. The first time was, I'm sorry, the time before that was like 23. No, it was like 30, 31, 29, something like that. The time before that was only like 12, and the first time was, I think, 0. Like nobody caught my first stream because nobody knew I was going to be streaming. Like this is new, and I understand it's progressive. It takes time. You know, you start small and then you start building and building and building and building and building. Encourage people to click yes. Thank you, Piston Pilot. So I've learned that I can pre-stream my stream, so that's what I started doing. I will post the video like the night before, like I did yesterday and the day before my last stream. Kate West, I can't. You're gonna make me blush. Please stop. She commented on like my good looks. See, I'm getting all red now. Thank you for that, Kate. Oh my gosh. Anyway, the last time, yes, hit the bell. Like when you see that I'm going to be streaming like at 8:30, 9:30 in the morning, click that bell. That will notify you when I'm actually going to go live. And I'll usually do it like the night before. So it'll be, let's say, like 8 o'clock in the evening, and then and then I'll stream 12 hours later. So if you hit the bell, it will notify you that, you know, I'm going to be streaming. So thank you all. I think there's just comments on, I'll address those in the comments below. I really have to get going. I'm actually shooting a commercial today, a brand new one for a show called Deadbeat in Kentucky. It's a show about people who are behind on their child support payments. It is live in court. It is going to be one of those, that's funny, Rainbow Six. It is going to be running live on the show. It is going to be live on all the commercial. My commercial is going to be going on that show, and I'm hoping to actually participate and be one of the streamers on that show. So thank you all so much. Once again, like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you all in the next video. Thank you. Bye, all.